Hey guys, my name is Hap and this is the T-34-2. This is another criminally underrated tank of the line. People consider it a bad tank because it doesn't have pen, but the T-44 has the exact same pen. Or that it misses a lot, though the aim time is really good. But I don't see those problems there. The T-34-2 is definitely gonna stay in my garage. It brings a unique playstyle thanks to the big gun that I can't get anywhere else in the tier this well. And I'm really considering getting the T-34 free after summer, since it just looks really hot. Not kidding. Already bought a gold camo for the 34-2, the Fire Sentinel. Just to say, there is a guy from TXC Free Scroll, which did some opinions on the tanks, and I gotta say his quick opinions of the tanks on the forums spurred me on to get them. I also think the 34-2 is better than the 34-1, even though some parts are perhaps a tiny bit worse than the 34-1, so let's get started anyway. I will only talk about the 122mm gun. If you want to use the 100mm, just get the Type 59 or the T-44 instead. The 122mm is a very interesting gun to use actually. From this point on, the strange shtick of the Chinese Mets pops up. A large caliber gun with usually mediocre penetration, a longish reload, and poor dispersion compensated by the best thing ever on these tanks, the ridiculous aim time. This thing surprisingly compensates for a lot of bad points with the gun. The dispersion hardly matters when the aim time is so quick. The only reason you would want to have a better dispersion is to hit more weak spots far more reliably, especially on the AT series tanks. I use the refined gun so that the gun can hit those small weak spots much better. Note that the gun is still terrible on move. It doesn't hit anything, and the reload is still kind of mediocre even after the buff, but now it compares to the IS-3's gun reload. I've managed to get it to like 12.6 seconds, which for a medium tank with this kind of a gun is very impressive. It's now actually pretty decent for the fact that you have a fairly well armored chassis, a huge gun and a good mobility. The mobility is probably why I prefer the 34-2 above the 34-1, but we'll get to that later. So what would I recommend in this part? I would recommend to not go fully frontline with this thing. The reload is still bad, so you can't brawl effectively if at all. The gun is much more accurate when you give it a second or two to aim, so preferably having some time on target could be useful as your dispersion is still very poor. Even with the refined gun you are looking at about 0.35 dispersion. You shouldn't stay back at all. Second line is where I would draw the line with the distance, as the dispersion really shows there, which you can actually see in the replays that I will show you. I tend to stay near the front and poke out every time I'm up for shooting someone. You also have 5 degrees of gun depression instead of 6, which doesn't really show, but I believe it's gonna be quite a bad point once you get to the W's at 120. So I guess let's talk about the armor a bit. The armor feels just a tiny bit better, and tier for tier, the turret armor may be a tiny bit worse, but pretty much the same rules apply. Your hull is still unreliable, but now it bounces a tiny bit more. The turret is still quite tough and almost impenetrable, but the cupolas are still not too hard to pen, so you should be careful on that. They're still not too easy to hit though, so moving a bit before going stationary to fire is ideal. Note what I'm saying here, before going stationary to fire. That's gonna be very important later on. Even the stock turret is fairly tough, but honestly, why would you want to play with that one since you have to use the Type 58's gun with it? Your modules are weirdly placed though. A lot of the times I get hit, my fuel tanks get damage on the front of the tank. As an addendum, the armor profile is still fairly low, but your camo rating, which has finally started showing up in Blitz, it should start dropping like flies soon. Well, while I really hate talking about the mobility part, the mobility on the T-34-2 is definitely an upgrade over the 34-1. You still weigh hardly 35 tons, and so your upgraded engine for 33,000 experience, that's colossal, gives you a lot of more power that you need. that you really need. With all of my bells and whistles, I have it at about 660 horsepower, which is impressive. Your tank moves just that bit better, and the top speed feels just right for the tank. The traverse is also perfectly fine, but watch that gun when you're turning a tank. Next up, I'm gonna show you a lot more replays than with the T-34 one, since I also promised to get more of them, so instead of the 2 that you had in the T-34 one review, I'm gonna give you 4. Yes. So now I'm hoping I will actually have a lot more time to talk about the tank. How does it feel? Do I like it? Would I recommend it? And so on and so on. Anyways, let's get right to it. Okay, the first battle is Canyon, a tier 9 match. Oh god, just looking at the team composition of the enemy makes me kind of want to vomit. So, what is there that has changed from the T-34-1 on the T-34-2? Well, even though it doesn't really look like too much, a lot of things have changed, I'm not gonna lie. The gun is possibly the biggest game changer. With such a huge caliber and such a ridiculous aim time, just look at it once I stay stationary for a while. It's ridiculous. I have to go and hide a little bit though, so please be patient. The aim time is just downright ridiculous. It's so good that I just use the refined gun on it instead. I don't really think that using the vertical stabilizer would help you a lot in this case. Sure, there's some pretty valid points about it, but the dispersion, 0.38, you should definitely try and tone that down a bit. That's why I run the refined gun. That's why 0.35 dispersion is a pretty good dispersion for a gun of this caliber. And here comes a complete BS shot that even I get kind of freaked out about. Watch this. What was that? Come on. Let's keep going. One more. Guess what? Straight to the gun. That's what you really have to watch about in the T-34-2. The gun is definitely powerful, but against light tanks, you should definitely aim a lot higher than where I did like that. You should try and aim up a bit higher above the tracks so that you have a far better chance of penning someone with HE and dealing them over 500. Like here. That's really nice. But now, I lost all of my health. I did a terrible move, and it cost me a lot. But the Centurion does worse. Other than our Scorpion, which keeps complaining. I don't know why. There's only 2 of us down so far. And I'm gonna help out the T95 with the Revalores, which I don't help out. Okay, I lied. But the T-34-2 is starting to become a much bigger issue. Now, if you get straight into their faces, a lot of the time, they will usually only have the turret to fire at reliably. So that's a pretty big plus, since you're so low to the ground. You can actually see the icon warning me that I am fairly close to drowning, which is very nice. Yeah. But is the tank really worth it? I would definitely say yes. I mean, I would definitely not recommend it to newer players. Absolutely not. This is one of the lines where map awareness, taking your time with your shots, and picking out the correct target is crucial to this thing. Just a slight error can cost you a lot, as you see with my health bar right now. But other than that, if you're a relatively skilled player, and if you're seasoned and you have a lot of experience, then these are perfect breathers from the basic lines that you have, like the Object 140, the T62A, Leo 1, E50M, M48 Patton, list goes on. Really, only the Chinese medium line and the British medium line are sort of to me, they feel a little different. The British line has relatively decent turrets and the Hesh, while the Chinese line has highly underrated turrets and powerful guns with great aim time. And honestly, I would say that the biggest breaker in this tank and that's by a long shot, is the gun depression. Like, I know that this is basically a T44 on steroids, but look at it. Seriously. 5 degrees of gun depression isn't a lot, and it's gonna be only worse with the Ws at 120. Anyways, that's the first battle done. 3000 damage. Nothing too impressive, but it shows what the tank is truly capable of when you're in a pinch. So that's like a second class, perhaps. The next one is gonna be on Canal, and it's gonna show a bit more of what you shouldn't do with the tank, which is very important. The more you learn about it, the better. Right, Canal. This time a tier 8 battle, and it's a lot more, well, medium and light oriented in this case, really. So I'm gonna go left. As you can already see, I'm running the really nice Fire Sentinel camo. Someone recommended it to me instead of that weird desert-like camo that we got in one of the recent updates, but I digress. One thing that you really can't do is just like poke above ridges, like absolutely not. The gun depression is just too bad. But what you can do is do this if you're on the map early enough and you can get some early shots in to stir up the enemy quite a bit. I noticed that the T43 has already passed, the CDC refuses to move, and the RU is, well, the RU is the RU. So I'm gonna teach you the T43 a little lesson in pushing. Boom! That's what I really like about the gun. Every time you're just loaded, you poke out and you deal a lot of damage. But here I'm gonna show a little bit of a mistake that you shouldn't do at all. Don't do that. Don't move when you're shooting. Don't do that, just no. Not even a tiny bit. That just leads to disaster. You will lose your health, but then again, this makes up for it. This is a very nice shot, really. Like, I think I got pretty lucky with that one, but I'm still pretty proud of it. I got a bit of a hit on the side armor, and so you can see that even if you're probably hidden, then the whole armor is still a tiny bit visible. And so I think I taught the CDC a lesson in what it means to not poke out. Because honestly, if you should be prepared for this thing to like hit for a lot if you're in one of the tanks like that. Just like if you're in a CDC and you poke out in front of a reloaded T44-2, just be prepared for trouble. It's such fun to play it, especially in platoons, when you have someone dependable, someone reliable that you can like rely upon, that he can help you out with, and basically that's really just how that really just depends on how your platoon mate is capable. The better he is, the more carnage you can make. Like, it's just downright ridiculous how much you can make with such a low amount of damage per minute. They're already at what is it again? 1878. The DPM I have on this thing is only 1900. The T34 1 had something like 2100 or something. That was a nice shot. Okay, just a quick pause. I'm gonna show you just how bad the gun really is at a distance. The Borsig. I know this is a bad shot, but this never hits. This shouldn't hit at all. And yeah, and I think I pull a second shot like that. Just watch. Yeah, I think he reverses, so like I can do that. But you shouldn't rely on the gun doing something like that, like actually hitting at a distance. Anyways, now it's a hunt for the Borsig. Guess I'm gonna be first. I really crave some of that HP. The HE on this thing is absolutely devastating if you get it to hit properly. Like, you can hit easily over 500 or near 600 without any issues. But then again, it's far, far less enjoyable if you kind of mess up the shot and it hits only for 100. But hey, boom, only 10 hit points. Kill secured, Darb gun. So yeah, that was a fairly low damage result, but what it gives me is a first class and a top gun. And it gives me the first class because I spotted a little bit more, so I have some assistance damage. Anyways, the third one is gonna be a far quicker battle, and it's gonna show you just how well the T-34-2 can fare against groups of enemies that you can disperse rather well. Okay, Dynasty Spiral. Another tier 8 match. Fair enough. I'm gonna tear up a lot of tanks tonight. So, this thing is just like, I wish I could talk about it for like much longer, but words cannot describe how happy I am with a tank that has finally managed to impress me, to make me change my point about some tanks, to make me consider grinding another new line, that I don't really need to play the T-54 and the T-44 all the time. And this is one of the reasons. Boom. Like, the second you pop out to ruin an enemy tank's day, it just feels so much more satisfying when you do that. Like, you're basically the destroyer of dreams. Look at that. Now, the Dracula is pretty much in a bit of a pretty big problem, so I'm gonna help him. And let's load the adrenaline. Even with adrenaline, the reload is kind of bad, 10.7 seconds, but you are like just completely godly with adrenaline on anyway. And that's it's my driver getting killed, so I heal him, and it's my driver getting killed. Ah, that's very frustrating. Some of the modules that are placed in the tank are placed rather weirdly, or they get destroyed rather often. That's mainly due to just the Chinese engineers. I don't know what they were doing with this tank, honestly, because when you get hit in the front, a lot of the time you can get hit in the fuel tank. It's like, if you look at this tank like this from the rear, you think the fuel would be at the back of the tank, perhaps? But no. Fair enough, I suppose. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone wants to do something different. But at this time, fuel at the front of a tank just doesn't really work. Boom. That's so satisfying. Yeah, I told you this was gonna be quick. And that's the third battle done. And I'm not really sure how to talk well over this, so the last battle will be kind of a wrap-up for the video. I'm sorry that it's like so sudden, but I found out that doing these improv talks is much better than scripting the entire replay, where I rely on my memory. Anyways, I'm talking too much. See you on Dead Royal. Okay, Dead Rail, tier 8 match. Although this one is a bit more tense than what you have seen so far. So, while this nice battle is going over, I'll start wrapping the video up. So, do I finally recommend the tank? Yes. If you're good, if you're a good player, that's really pretty much all I can say about recommending the tank. It's got a very nice gun, if you know how to use it well. It's got a very nice armor profile, if you know how to use it well, and it moves rather decently. Of course, it doesn't make any money whatsoever. The credit coefficient is like 80%, so permanent enrichment, if you had like 15,000 gold to spare, and I honestly haven't heard of many people who do that, then giving this thing over 140% of a credit coefficient is very tasty. Imagine grinding money with this thing. But then again, if you want to grind money and have the exact same tank, get the T-34 free instead. I really want to get it. Like, if it ever comes on a sale and I have the money, I will absolutely have to buy it. But, boy, I'm just like, I'm so sorry for not, like, thinking through these videos rather well, that they sound like me rambling for over 20 minutes. In this case, it's gonna definitely be rambling over 20 minutes. As I'm looking at the timer right now, we're hitting 20 minutes 10 seconds. But I just really want to make clear what the tank is about. Like, how do you want to play it? How should you want to play it? And if it is for you. Which a lot of the time Chinese mediums aren't really played a lot actually. It's kind of sad, really. And again, I'm terrible at making these, so I'll probably have to ask some people later on during the year if they can help me out with what to say during these videos, really, because I'm just a grub. I'm a noob. Anyways, like, as I have already mentioned in the T34-1 video, if you ever want to sponsor the channel somehow, I really only am able to accept PayPal donations. They're on the channel description. But you don't have to do them, because I just want to make the videos because I want to. It's my passion, and it makes me feel good when I publish them. Well, there's one exception, really, the T44 video. I was in a pretty bad state during that time, so it didn't really end up well. What video I am really proud of, though, is the T54 video and the Type 61 video, so I really hope that I'll be able to recreate those videos anytime soon. Also, I would like to thank for a lot of the attention I have received on the IS-2SH review. I don't know why I have received so much on it. I think it's better if I don't know why, to be honest. But really, this is kind of what the T34-3, not even the T34-3, I'm screwing this up, sorry. I don't have the time to re-record these, sorry. The T34-2, a big peekaboo machine, a monster with a big gun and a strong turret, and it moves well. What's there not to love? I think I'm gonna change my perspective on these tanks a bit once I get to do the blues at 120, since the gun depression there, it's definitely gonna be a big stopper. But anyways, that brings us to the end of the battle actually. I'm gonna be taking a very, very slight break so that I can make some new and interesting videos. I think I'm gonna go a bit higher in tiers this time when I'm gonna be making a new video. Anyways, my name is Hab. If you somehow liked this video, feel free to like, comment or subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Since you already heard me talking about that higher tiers are gonna be next, I think you know that tier 10 is coming now. Anyways, see you guys.